All right, Big Man, welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. We got a big show today, everybody. I'm sitting here. I'm joined by a former high school mate of mine, former teammate of mine, who actually just served time in federal prison for robbing a bank. His name's Dave. I've been kind of in contact with you, Dave, since you've gotten out here about a little less than a month ago, and I just kind of thought it would be an interesting thing to people kind of hear your story, to hear everything that happened, to, you know, what goes in the mind, what's the thought process of what it is to, you know, rob a bank and, you know, going on trial and, you know, going to jail and everything. So thanks for being here.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I'm just very interested to hear, you know, everything that went down.
Yeah.
Because, you know, around, at least where I was from, you know, in the same neighborhood, obviously, we went to the same high school. It was a big deal.
Yeah, no, I know. It blew up. It kind of, you know, when people found out, you know, I was getting texts, calls. It was crazy. So it'll be nice to kind of explain my side of the story and let people know what happened and, you know, where I'm at now. And
yeah, for sure. And that's why we're here, because I think people just want to know, you know, and you want to tell your story, you want to get it out there. So I was like, I'd be, you know, I'd be happy to, you know, to do this with you. So, so first things first, you robbed a bank. It was July 26th of 2016.
Correct.
Let's go before that. At what point did you know that you were going to rob the bank?
I kind of had started thinking about it a little bit in May. You know, I was having some issues. I owned a food truck in a restaurant. And I started having some issues, you know, financially and you know, mentally I was in a terrible spot. You know, issues with pills and gambling. And I'd started thinking about it in May. I really didn't actually seriously think about it until like a week before I did it.
Okay. So it gets in your head in May because of substance abuse and an assortment of other things. And then you're sitting there, and a week before, what do you do? What's the first thing you do to get the ball kind of in motion?
Well, I was actually home here in Chicago. Okay. I was visiting my parents, and I had noticed, you know, like I wasn't going to be able to sustain, you know, with my bills and stuff like that. And I actually went to Fantasy Costume at Milwaukee and Irving.
Yeah.
And that's where I purchased the mask. I actually bought the mask the day before I robbed the bank in Chicago. And then the day that I robbed the bank, I flew back to Yankton, South Dakota.
Now, was that intentional? Were you like, I'm going to buy the mask here because it'd be harder to trace?
Yeah, pretty much. That's what my thinking was at the time.
Okay.
You know, but they ended up tracing it anyways.
Oh, did they?
Yep.
Did you pay cash and everything?
I ended up paying with my card.
Okay.
You know, I kind of messed up there, but yeah, they were able to get, you know, a copy of the receipt that I had signed.
Oh, really? Know. So they had a lot of stuff on you already.
Yeah.
What kind of mask did you buy?
It was just an old man mask. It was like a realistic old man mask. It went down to my neck below the shirt line.
And when you make this decision, what was the debt at this point? Like, what did you need to get?
I wasn't like, I owed, like every week I owed on a loan that I had taken. Because what happened was I owned this food truck. I started a food truck in August of 2015. The food truck was going pretty good. Food trucks weren't a big thing out in South Dakota, so I was starting to kind of gain momentum. And then in January of 16, I was approached with an opportunity that I thought at the time was a good opportunity. It wasn't, you know, and I owed, you know, a percentage of my sales to this guy. It was like a rent to own type of thing. And so every day I had my sales, and this guy would take 10% of my sales every day. And then that would, you know, we had a term agreement, but then in April I took out a loan and I borrowed some money from some other people, and it was a snowball. It just got too big for me to handle.
And what was the point where you're like, I need to do something? I can't just default. Like, was there a threat or what? Because that seems...
No, there wasn't a threat. You know, honestly, it wasn't just the money. I don't think why I robbed the bank. I've tried to like sit down and analyze why I really did it, because I could have reached out to a number of people for help, but I didn't. There was recently a story like Hayden Hurst. I don't know if you watch that video of him where he talks about his addiction and stuff like that. And I was just at a point like in my life where I was just suffocated.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds crazy, but that was like my choice. I don't, and like I said, I've tried to, I did programs in prison where you kind of look back at what you did. And there's not like, it wasn't just the debt. It was like this, I was just like in a bad place overall. And, you know, a lot of people try to use that as an excuse. It's not really an excuse, but that's the only clarity of the situation I can really come up with, is that I was just in a bad spot. I felt suffocated. You know, I had gone through a bad breakup, you know, with my fiance. I had these 2 new businesses. You know, I was struggling with pills. I had struggled with pills at this point. It was like almost 10 years, you know what I mean?
What were you using?
Oxys, Hydros, Vicodin, anything, you know. With my injuries in college, in college I was snorting pills, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you had a lot of college football injuries, is that right?
Yeah, correct.
So college football injuries led you to doing a lot of Oxy.
Yeah, I mean, they did. Yeah, it definitely, you know, you get a little bit here and then it just doesn't become enough, you know. You look at some of the injuries that I played through when I was in college. My redshirt freshman year, I ruptured 3 ligaments in my ankle before the season even started. I played the whole year.
Mm-hmm. Didn't
miss a game. You know, I sat out in practices, didn't miss a game. My redshirt sophomore year, I hyperextended my elbow really bad. Didn't miss a game. My, you know, spring football that year, bad concussion. I was out for 3 months with that concussion.
So you're beat up.
Yeah, and then, you know, I had a back injury where I was getting epidurals, and then, you know, that was the craziest one that happened. Was I sat out, you know, my whole spring football, my junior year going into my senior year, sat out all summer, you know, waiting to have this good. You know, I had a pretty good. I was an all-conference guy my junior year. I had a pretty good year with all those injuries. Was expecting my senior year to have a really, really good year. Don't know what would have happened. I'm not saying the pros or anything, but I was expecting, you know, to have a really good year. And then my first day of practice back from my back injury, I dislocated my shoulder.
So leading up to that week, when you make that decision, how many oxys would you say you're taking a day?
I was taking easily, like I was taking 80, I would buy 80 milligram oxys.
Okay.
And I was taking.
Not an oxy guy, but I assume that's pretty strong.
Yeah, that's strong.
Yeah.
I was taking like six to 8 of them a day just to get by.
Okay. And that's, what does that cost? Like what's that running you already?
That's a lot. The pills at the time were costing me like $15 a piece, roughly.
Okay. So $15 a piece. So leading up to that week, it's a mixture of, it sounds like a bad breakup, sounds like a tough business situation, a drug issue. You said there was a gambling issue there too.
Yeah, I was gambling. I actually tried to win some money like before I went in the bank route.
Instead of doing that?
Yeah, and it just got deeper.
Yeah, you got to gamble responsibly. I want to fit that in. So obviously, Dave, you get to a point in that week, and was that the first step then? Were you like, I'm going to buy this mask? What did you figure out next? Well, walk me through the steps that you took before you robbed the bank.
So the first step, I was actually here I was visiting with a girlfriend at the time. I was dating again, but it wasn't, you know, she was invested. I was kind of just in a bad place in my mind, but I went and purchased a mask. And then I kind of had an idea of how I wanted to do it. I know I didn't want to use a firearm because I looked up and saw that, you know, you use a firearm and it'll be 5 years automatically plus the bank robbery. So I was like, I'm not going to use a firearm. I was trying to think of a way to do it, you know, without really hurting the employees, but also getting away with it, you know. So when I actually flew back and I was driving back, I flew into Omaha and we were driving back. That's kind of, on that 2-hour drive is kind of when I had formulated this idea of using a box and saying it was a bomb.
Mm-hmm. And was the bank always the target? Did you ever think of a different place, like a gas station or anything?
No, because I just knew that there wasn't any money in it.
So there was enough money at a bank. So that's
I was hoping at the time to get like $50,000, and then all my problems I thought would be going
solved.
away. Yeah.
Okay, so you said this. So you landed in Omaha.
Yeah.
And then you drive 2 hours to
Yankton.
To Yankton. Okay, so you buy the mask. You do this flight the day before or the day after you buy the mask, and then that drive, you're planning it.
Yeah, and I had timed it. I hadn't timed it beforehand, but I had realized it would work out to make it look like by the time I got back to Yankton, like it would be like a 20-minute window that I robbed the bank. And so like I thought in my mind that it would look like, oh, he wasn't even in town when the bank got robbed. You know what I mean? For that extra, because by the time I got back to Yankton, it was like 4:15.
Oh, so this is fresh off the plane.
Yes.
So you drove 2 hours. Did you stop home or anything?
I stopped home. I dropped my girlfriend off, and then I stopped home, threw the mask on, grabbed a box, and then went.
Holy shit. So you have your girlfriend in the car with you.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about this.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And she had no idea.
She had no idea.
And I feel just terrible about how the whole thing played down with her, because there's a lot into it. And there's some stuff I don't want to talk about, obviously, with her. But, she was actually close with some of the people in the bank. So I put her in a really bad spot. And the last 3 years I've been thinking about that. That's just terrible what I did to her. But, she was in the car. She had no idea what I was going to do.
Wow.
And she actually, after I hit the bank, which we'll go into, but I actually picked her up and we actually went to the casino afterwards.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that was it was constructed that way because that would have been your alibi.
Yeah.
Being, hey, I couldn't have been me. I was coming from Omaha.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's no way.
Yeah.
So you go.
It wasn't intentional at the time, but when I was coming back in 2 hours, that's what my thought. I was like, okay, this is going to work out.
Yeah. Wow. So you really had it engraved in your head that this was happening.
Yeah.
And so you stop home. You just grabbed a random shoebox, or what kind of box?
I just had business owner. I got stuff laying around, so I grabbed a small box that was empty, and then it didn't have anything on the outside of it. And I don't know why I did this. Like I said, I was in a weird spot in my mind, but I went out. I had a mason jar in my kitchen, and I took the mason jar and went right outside my front. I lived in an apartment in Yankton, and I scooped up some rocks in that mason jar, put the lid on, and then put that in the box and taped up the box.
Okay.
And I was thinking, weight, put some weight in the box, I guess.
Okay, so that was the thought process behind the rocks.
Yep.
So then you drove yourself over there, right?
Yep, in my car,
mm-hmm.
the same car that.
And
it was a newer car. I had bought the car, I think back in February, like before I started kind of going downhill. So it was a newer car. I still had paper plates, so I just pulled the paper plates off.
And when you're standing there, when you're sitting in your car,
I actually drove around the later on in the investigation. They told me that they saw this. I drove around for like 10 minutes because I was like, I'm just going to go home. I'm not going to do this.
So you did have a moment of pause.
Yeah. It was like a 10-minute moment. It wasn't just like a one single quick moment. It was like legitly for 10 minutes kept driving around the block. There was the county building there where you go pay utilities and your registration and stuff. They had a camera outside, and I guess the feds saw me, kept going by. You know what I mean? They kept seeing me make the circle because I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah. And did you rip the cardboard plates off at the house or at the parking lot of the bank?
At the house.
Okay. So
I actually got into the car with the mask on and everything.
Okay, so you were circling around with the mask on. So you had, okay.
And you couldn't see in my car. I had like the high 5% tint, so you couldn't see in anyways. But I was pretty high when I did it.
Yeah.
I honestly don't. I remember going in. I don't remember very much.
What about the moment? Do you remember the moment sitting there, and how far away did you park?
I parked. So they had like this big parking lot, the bank, and then they shared with like another spot, and I pulled in like on the other spots kind of parking lot, and they actually caught me on the ATM camera, like just barely pulling in. They didn't know, like it was a similar car. They couldn't make out the car. They couldn't make out any of that stuff.
Because you were wearing the old man mask too, so they and you had the tints, you said.
Yeah, and so then I parked. I kind of thought for a second, and then I got out of the car.
Is that something that you could play back to the beginning of time, or did you kind of black out?
I kind of blacked out. Like I said, I was high, and then just like, I don't know if it's like my brain, like the shame and the adrenaline all mixed together. I remember walking in. I do remember that. I like hunched over like I was an old man. I walked in like an old man, And I remember going through the door, and then I kind of remember saying stuff to the employees, and I remember grabbing the money, and then I don't remember until really like I was like a block away from my house.
So you don't remember exactly what you said?
I do know because of the discovery and the evidence and stuff like that.
How long was it start to finish? Like being
a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you walk in.
Yeah.
You're crouched over. Did you have a cane?
No, I just walked holding this box. I was hoping they thought maybe it was like a change box or something.
Did you feel from the get-go that they were looking at you suspicious?
No, I honestly didn't. Later on, one of the employees said that they had, she knew right away. But I do, I walked in and placed the box on the counter and said, I got a bomb. I need all the money. And that the first teller, the guy actually told me no. I do remember that.
The guy said no.
No.
So you went to another teller, or
no,
he called someone over?
And then I don't remember what was said, honestly, but we had exchanged some words, and then the manager told him to do it. And then at that time, I noticed, I do remember this, and you can see the picture of it online of me pointing. It's like one of the pictures that everyone knows of me. You can see me pointing because the girl in the back was going to hit the button underneath the counter.
Okay. So what did she do when you pointed?
She stopped.
Okay, so you saw her doing it. You said, "Hey."
I don't remember what I said, honestly.
No. So I'm like, "Hey, don't move."
Don't move. I never threatened. Like, I did threaten, like saying I had a bomb, but I never said like, "Oh, I'm going to kill you."
No,
I never said any of that stuff. I did say like the bomb would blow up, but I never. I tried to keep it like, it sounds crazy, but I tried to keep it civil.
Yeah. And so when did they take the money from? The till?
Just the till there.
The drawer?
Yeah. My plan was to hit the vault because the way the bank was set up was like the vault's open and it's right there. But when I was in there, I was freaked out. I just wanted to get in and get out.
It was just too much. So then they give you what's in the till.
There's two drawers there that they gave me.
Okay. And then what did you have to put it in?
I just put it in my pocket. It wasn't that much. It was $7,000.
Yeah.
$6,900.
Okay, so $6,900, and you just instantly just shove it in your pocket.
Correct.
You leave the box on the counter.
Yeah, I told them this was kind of my plan to get away because Yankton's a small town, and where I robbed the bank is like 2 blocks away from the police station. So I told them that I had somebody watching and that they had to wait 30 minutes to call the police, otherwise the box would blow.
And did they do that? Do you know?
I think they did. I'm not sure. I think somebody had said that they called right away after, but we never really got into, because by the time, all the evidence started coming out, I was ready to confess anyways, just to get it over with. So I never found out about that part. And
then when you walk out, do you remember that more? Like, did you have like a coming to moment?
No, I honestly don't. I don't remember walking to my car.
No.
I remember getting in my car, and I don't remember. I just remember being like 2 blocks away. And I remember pulling the mask off and then like looking at myself in the mirror saying, wow, I just really robbed a bank.
Yeah.
And then, so what I did is, we can go into this, but what I did afterwards, if you want.
Yeah. Well, what did you do with the money? So you had the $6,900.
So I took I had a backpack there, and I had clothes underneath the clothes I was wearing. I had like I had cargo shorts. I had wore loose fitting clothes because I'm a big guy. I'm like, they're going to see. And this was actually my bank that I banked at.
So why did you choose? That was another question I had. Why did you choose this bank? Just because you knew it the best?
Because I knew it. That's it. That's the only reason why. It wasn't the people. It wasn't the location. It was just, I just knew the layout of the bank.
Uh-huh.
I knew where the cameras were outside. I knew that's the only reason why I did it.
So you've gone there hundreds of times before.
Yeah. I had my personal account there, and then I had my business account there too. And I would do like change orders and, deposits there. And I would talk to the employees. I actually personally knew one of the employees, which was, at the looking back now, is just such a scumbag move to do, but at the time I just wasn't thinking about any of that.
And was it because and we'll get into it. We could get into the trial and everything, but that ended up coming back into it, right? With,
yep.
And the people.
Yep.
Yep. But let's keep it in order here. So you have the cash.
Yep.
Like, are you looking at the cash in the car? Like, holy
no,
fuck?
No, I didn't even count out. So what I did is I just threw everything. I took the mask off. I threw everything in my book bag, my backpack. And I knew an area north of town that I could go because I wanted to get out of town.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be in town. So I drove up there and I knew a guy that had a little property up there in an old barn that he didn't use. So what I did is I actually hid the backpack up there. I took like a stack of the cash out of there and then went and picked up my girlfriend at the time. I said, hey, let's go to the casino. Because I wanted to like clean up some of the money you hear about it in movies, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went to the casino. I ended up winning some money at the casino, I believe. I can't really remember that stuff too much anymore, but
Yeah. So you gambled like all
I didn't know. I
$7,000 of it,
I
or
didn't take all $7,000 of it. I took like $5,000, I think $4,000.
you just kind of cleaned it up, like you said,
playing blackjack.
and so you walked out with more
Yeah.
than what you what you had. Wow. And so is your girlfriend kind of like
When we were
surprised?
driving to Sioux City, she was like, "Oh my God, Wells Fargo in Yankton got hit," and I was like, "What do you mean it got hit?" You know what I mean? So
Wow.
she was like, "It got robbed." I was like, "Wow." So then I actually called. It was like just trying to cover myself and look like a decent human being. I called my restaurant and told my restaurant to close. It was like a sub shop. I told them to close, and I posted because they didn't. Like other businesses were closing too because they didn't know where the person was or who did it. So I kind of was doing that to cover myself too.
Wow, because it's a big thing there, right? It's a
they
smaller
shut
town.
down. They shut. I mean, there was.
Wow, so it was like a lockdown.
Yeah, there was pictures online of dudes on the border because it's right on the border of Nebraska. There's a bridge that goes over to Nebraska. And there's dudes in full camo body armor with ARs and.
Holy smokes, man!
And then they brought a bomb. Like a bomb robot that went and got the box.
Wow, so your girlfriend says that, and you just have to play shocked then.
Yeah, you play shocked.
But didn't she say like, "Hey, where'd you get this $5,000 from?"
No, I mean she didn't know. In her mind, I'm a food truck owner, business owner. You know what I mean, nobody knew I was having problems. You know, some people did, but.
And then obviously
she didn't even. Nobody. This was the thing about my drug use. There's like 5 guys in college that knew what I was doing, like with pills and stuff like that. But other than that, nobody knew. I just hid it from everybody. She didn't even know that I used pills.
Really?
Yep.
So you're functioning.
Yeah.
Drug user.
Yep. I mean, I was just in a haze all the time, pretty much. But yeah, there was guys in college that, like I said, that knew that I did pills with and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a couple times like in college where I passed out. Like there was one time I took like 6 30-milligram oxys and drank 2 beers, and I passed out in the backyard for the whole party, and people thought it was funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then there was another time where I passed out in a bank parking lot, threw up all over.
Yeah. But people just think you're just drunk. Or
You
something,
just think it's college. They think you're partying, which is I understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But there was bigger problems.
But she didn't know like about my pill issues and stuff.
So obviously the adrenaline and the height of you in the midst of a bank robbery and planning it takes over early on. But at that point, when she says, "Oh my gosh, Yankton got hit," and you're closing your business, was that when you realized like the height of what you did?
Nope, it didn't. And this is kind of why I use the casino, because going to a casino, no windows, can't be on your phone. Casinos can sometimes be where you just go hide from problems.
Mm-hmm.
You can just shut out the world, and that's what I did a lot of the times. Is just went to the casino, didn't have to deal with anything. It didn't come until that night when I was alone in my apartment.
And what happened there?
I was just terrified. I couldn't sleep. I was just pacing around my apartment. I felt terrible, sick to my stomach. I threw up a couple of times.
Now, did you feel terrible because of what you did?
Yes.
Or at the possibility of getting caught?
I didn't care about. I wasn't even thinking about the getting caught. I was more just like ashamed.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't how I was raised. I was a criminal justice major in college. And then, these people, I was like, God, I feel terrible.
And like, was it their faces that you remember? Like,
No,
do you remember
just
that much?
Not really, because it was the like once I started freaking out, I think my brain started blocking like the bank robbery a little bit out of my brain. Like I don't remember really like if they were hysterical or not, or
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean.
So that
and it feels like I feel bad for that because they obviously remember, but
very traumatic experience for them. So you clean it up. You're at your apartment. You kind of realize what you did there, and you're freaking out. You feel bad. Did you drop your girlfriend back off? She wasn't there, right?
Yeah, she wasn't there.
So what's next here? So you're sitting here. You got all this money. Did you run to pay off some of these debts?
Yeah.
Are
So
you laying low? Where's your car?
The money didn't even make like a dent in
Oh no.
No, it really didn't. It just prolonged it a little bit, but not.
So we're talking like a 5-figure debt here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It might have even been close to 6-figure with everything,
With everything involved.
Well, it just kept getting worse. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'd borrow from this guy to pay off this guy, and then I'd be more in debt with this guy. It wasn't. If I would have stuck with just doing my food truck, everything would have been fine. I'd have been fine.
So then, what do you do with the money then?
I put it in my bank account through the ATM.
Oh, so you went back to that?
Yeah,
bank.
I wouldn't do it like I didn't put it all in. I broke it up over a couple of days.
Wow. And now, that seems kind of crazy.
Yeah.
For you to do that.
I mean, I thought that I cleaned, the money was good. You know what I mean? And then I think it was like 2 days in between that I went and burned all the clothes and the mask and stuff like that. I got rid of all that.
By the farm.
Yep.
So at no point right now, days, you're shuffling money back into it, clean money from the casino. At no point you're sitting there thinking you're going to get caught?
No. I mean, I thought like the thought scared me, but I honestly thought I got away with it.
But
after about a week, I thought I was like, I'm good.
But why though? What were you so confident about?
I mean, I had heard that they had some other suspects. They didn't have fingerprints. They didn't have DNA,
And did you take any other measures to make sure you were clean on that end?
So when I was driving to the bank, I actually thought about it. I was like, oh, I don't have gloves on. And I had some super glue in my car, so I put some super glue over my fingers and my hand.
Did they find out that did anything, or was there no fingerprints there?
There's no fingerprints. My fingerprints or DNA didn't show up.
Okay, so there was no DNA of yours there.
No.
Okay, so
to my knowledge, and I'm pretty sure on that.
Okay, so now how long after that do you what happens? The police knock at your door?
No, so it actually nothing actually happened until I had a crazy situation in October that happened with the stabbing.
Yeah,
I didn't know I was even a suspect until then.
So you get into another situation here, and this was also in news reports. And like I'm telling you, like myself and a lot of people in Chicago are reading this, like, holy fuck! Like,
what was he doing?
What was he doing? Like this guy's fucking nuts.
Yeah,
And there were the situation of the stabbing. There was an accusation that you killed your dog.
No, my dog's alive, and so I can walk you through kind of the whole thing.
Sure.
So, what happened was, there's some details I'm not going to go into because it's a little bad, but basically, I was at Walmart. I was FaceTiming with my parents. I was trying to pick out a Christmas or a Halloween costume for my daughter. Realized I was like, I don't have my wallet, so I went home. And when I walked in there, my TV was pulled down off where it was at. My electronics were piled by the door, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? And I walked to my bedroom, and my dog was laying there bleeding, and there was a guy actually in my bedroom.
So you're being robbed.
Yep.
And this is after
the bank robbery. This is in October.
Okay, so
I don't
July,
remember
October.
I don't remember the specific date.
Okay. So then what happens? You see this guy.
We kind of tussled a little bit. I got stabbed in the hand, and I got stabbed in the side. I ended up running out to my car. I don't know why, because my phone was in there, but my keys were in the house. My car was locked, so I ended up running across to the other apartment building, and the police were called. They ended up going in. They didn't find the guy. I think he must have ran out too. I got away from him. We were fighting. I got put in. I didn't realize I was stabbed I knew I was stabbed in the hand. I didn't realize I was stabbed in the side until I looked down and there was blood everywhere. They took me into, the ambulance, brought me to the ER. And then when I was at the ER, I kind of started having an inclination that something was weird because the police was there and they wanted my phone. And I'm like, why do you want my phone? I'm the victim of a stabbing. What does that have to do with anything? And, the next day is when I found out, when I got released from the hospital the next day, no real bad damage anywhere with the stabbings, all good. I had surgery on my hand to replace it or to fix some of the ligaments or whatever. But the next day is when they met me at the apartment with a search warrant for the bank robbery. And I don't want to get, because there's still some stuff with the stabbing going on behind the scenes with them. Essentially, they tried to say at the end, a couple months later, that they believed that I had stabbed myself and stabbed my dog. I have no idea where they got that from. You know what I mean? They never asked me what was stolen from the apartment. They never asked me any other information. You know what I mean? They were kind of focused on, they knew that apparently I was a suspect in the bank robbery. I think they kind of focused on that. I don't know where they got the idea. I tried to ask them, why would I stab myself? Why would I stab my dog? What was the purpose of it? They really couldn't provide any information to me about it. I don't know where they got that idea from, but no, I did not stab my dog. My dog is alive.
So you still have your dog?
No, my parents actually gave my dog up to another family while I was incarcerated, just because, they're working. They don't have time for a dog. So, but he's good.
So that was, because that was big. That was a lot of people like, oh my God, he killed his dog.
No, my dog survived, and I never, I didn't have anything to do with, I have some ideas of who it was and why they did it. It's not stuff I really want to get into because it could still be like an open situation.
Open case. But safe to say, though, there was no leads and never found the person.
And they honestly never investigated, which I can see why, because the bank robbery was a big deal. Mm-hmm. It's a small town. The bank robbery shut down the town. Yeah. So I think they were kind of mainline focused on that, because actually and we'll get into this more, but when I confessed to the bank robbery, one of the detectives from Yankton approached me and was like, if you sign this, you won't get charged. And we ended up reading it, and it was basically confessing that I stabbed myself and stabbed my dog. Oh. And I ended up I was like, no, I'm not going to sign this.
So you get to a situation here where that situation happens.
So then I found out the next day, I go to the apartment. I'm like, because I asked them when I went first, there was some crime scene tape. And so I was like, okay, maybe they're checking out the crime scene. So I went, they met me later on, and they served me with a search warrant for the bank robbery.
And were you stunned?
I was absolutely shocked. I was like, first of all, I was like, this is weird timing. Mm-hmm. I thought, with the stabbing and stuff. Literally the day after. So then I immediately walked to one of the defense attorneys in town and said, hey, I need you. Yeah.
And now, was it something where they found something in your phone?
No, because they didn't have any of my password, because I refused to give it to them, because I was like, I'm not going to give you my phone. I'm a victim of a stabbing. Why would I give you my phone?
So did your radar go up then that you might have been a suspect in the bank robbing, or
thinking
no?
Now it does, but not then. I just got stabbed. I was laying in a room. They cut off all my clothes. I'm laying on a bed naked in front of a bunch of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I have to imagine at some point from July to October, you were probably a little nervous anytime you saw any type of police.
I'd gotten over it, to be honest with you. I thought I was in the clear.
Thought you were in the clear.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have a search warrant. They show up. You said you immediately walked to a defense attorney?
Yeah.
Then
no, what? Actually, I believe. No, I waited. I believe, actually, now that I think about it, and it's kind of, the whole situation gets a little frazzled in my head because there was a lot going on. But I actually talked to the detective, I believe, in the FBI before I got an attorney.
Okay. So you talked to the detective.
And I told him, no, I didn't rob a bank. No, they asked me questions. It was like a 20-minute interview. I said, no, I didn't have anything to do with it. I was like, you guys were just in my apartment. There's nothing in there.
Now, when they're questioning you, how confident are you that they have a good case against you?
I didn't know what they had. I didn't have any clue, inclination of what.
But you think you're caught in your head, right?
No.
You still think you're okay?
I still thought I was all right. I still thought, I had done a good enough job. And usually they say bank robberies, and that's like watching any sort of crime show, they tell you, unless they get you right away, they're not going to get you. You know what I mean? So I kind of had built that. I think I built that protection up in myself. Like, no, they're not going to get me.
So you the questioning, you still think no, but at the same time, you're like, hey, I know I did it.
Yeah.
I'm being questioned. I have to go get an attorney.
Yeah. There was some point in there that I got the attorney, and the attorney started, dealing with them. We didn't do any more interviews. They came and got my DNA, but no DNA was matched. And I kind of just abandoned my businesses at this point. Once they started investigating me, I just gave up on my business.
Who was running it, though, when you said you texted them to shut it down when you were coming from
I had just
Omaha?
managers and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, employees.
Okay.
But I just kind of abandoned them.
Like you just complete right off, like I'm
done.
Okay. Now, that was before you were charged? Because wouldn't that be pretty suspicious if you just kind of cut it off?
No, because I just played it off like I really just was life tired with, at the time of the bank robbery and then afterwards. And I actually got evicted from my apartment, too. The landlord evicted me from my apartment.
Because of back rent?
No, just because of the
situation. Okay. Could you do that?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And my lease was up the next month anyway, so I didn't really fight it. But I was actually living in a hotel. And then, I called my parents and I said, listen, I'm done here. I just want to come home.
Okay, so you kind of throw in the towel then.
With the business, the food truck, everything was collateral. I lost everything.
Yes.
So there wasn't anything to salvage. I was at a point I was like, okay, people are going to think that I'm a bank robber. They're not going to come do business with me. They're not going to hire me. My food truck, I did catering. I did other events with them. Like, I'm done.
But I'm so confused, though, because you said you still thought you were good. So why'd you give up on everything?
But the perception was out that I was a suspect.
Oh, so how did that travel?
It just gets out.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the small town police department that knows about it. So they release it to people. You know what I mean? Even my girlfriend knew, and she was like, what?
What was that conversation like?
Told her I didn't do it.
But what did she say to you? How did that happen?
She's like, did you rob that bank? She's like.
On the phone or you're in person?
No, in person. She was at the hotel with me.
And out of nowhere, she walks in one day
to
the hotel room. And she's like, did you rob that bank?
Yep.
And you said no.
No, I said no, I didn't rob the bank. I hadn't told anybody.
Hey, did she believe you?
Huh?
Did she believe you?
I think so, because she stayed around.
Yeah.
I was good like that, man. I was good, like, being in that state. Like, I was good at putting up on a persona.
You're
like,
a good compulsive liar.
Yeah, essentially. I was like, everything's good. Like, my family used to call, and this is something I'm working on with my family. They used to call and be like, hey, everything good? I'd be like, yeah, everything's great. You know what I mean? I would play this, but inside I'm depressed because of I had found out my fiance cheated on me. You know what I mean? That's one thing that led to it. And I don't like to blame. I'm not a blamer.
Yeah.
But then, the drugs, the gambling, everything was just too overwhelming. But I was very good at putting on this smiling, really nice, polite kid. Well, older gentleman, but. And
it should be stated you had a fiance that you were done with in January that year.
Yeah. So right in January is when I signed that deal with the guy for the restaurant, the sub shop. Within 2 weeks of that, I had found out she cheated on me.
Okay, and you guys had a kid together as well.
And we were engaged. Yes,
and you had a kid together as well.
Yeah.
So that you move on, you have another girlfriend, the one we've been talking about throughout this whole show, and where's your daughter throughout this whole process?
I mean, we're shared custody.
Okay, so you're basically living as a technical word, a fugitive. If you're being questioned, you're a suspect in a bank robbery, and you just have your daughter.
Yeah,
and it's just like life goes on.
Yeah, and so like I said, I made that decision to kind of call my family and say I'm done here. I need to get out, and they didn't know. Nobody knew that I robbed the bank. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't. You know what I mean? Nobody knew.
So then there was just the height of everything. You knew you were a suspect.
I told my parents, I said, I don't know why they're doing this to me. I said, I don't know why they think I did it. I didn't do it. I lied to him, obviously.
How did they find out though? They were like, when you told them that, when you had that conversation saying, hey, I'm done here, or was it they
No,
called,
I told
hey,
them.
Dave?
I told him I was a suspect.
Okay, so they had some awareness of the situation.
Yeah.
So they come, they pick you up, or you just drive back, or
no?
what?
So what happened was my mom came out. My mom flew out. I picked her up, and I got because I had like 3 weeks to get out of my apartment, so all my stuff was at my apartment. And we just actually loaded everything up in a U-Haul and moved it into a storage unit, and then I just left town. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. Just peeled out. I was trying to thought maybe I could just run away from my problems. I mean, I didn't even tell my girlfriend I was leaving.
Just complete ghosted her.
Just ghosted.
Wow.
You got to understand, I was in this state of mind that was just, I was doing drugs for, 8 years, 10 years of my life, pills every day. I was just a scumbag, to be honest with you. That's the only way to say it. I was just a complete and utter scumbag. And I didn't care about other people because I didn't care about myself. That was the big thing, is I just didn't care. I felt bad. I felt things, but I was just defeated. And that's the word I like to use, is defeated and suffocated. I was just, before the robbery, after the robbery, I was just suffocated and defeated by life. And I let it get to myself. And now I know, there's how to deal with it and everything like that. But
different outlets, yeah.
But I went home and, moved home.
So you come back to Chicago.
Yep. It really didn't follow. I mean, they were still investigating me, but this was October.
2016.
Yep. November, December, nothing. January, nothing. February, nothing.
March comes.
I think it was like February, actually.
February?
The dates are hard for me to remember because you're not really
But that 5-month period that you're back in Chicago, is it in the back of your mind, or you're still convinced?
Yeah, it's definitely back in the mind, but I think I got away with it because I'm like, they just let me leave town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they got nothing. If they had something, I would be under arrest already.
So it's in the back of your mind, but you still believe that you're good.
Yep.
Like you have the whole way.
Yep.
The whole way you think.
Well, and I started getting better. I stopped. Today's actually 4 years and 3 weeks that I stopped using drugs.
Congratulations.
Yep.
And is it something here though, Dave, where it didn't raise any suspicion of why they questioned you in the first place? Like, why do you think what were you thinking?
No, I knew they thought I had done it because when they started.
But you didn't think they had enough evidence.
I didn't think they had enough evidence. I knew that I was a suspect.
Gotcha.
I wasn't thinking that they were investigating me for no reason. I knew I was a suspect, but I didn't think that they had enough to get me.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
And, towards like September, I think I approached a couple other people about borrowing money because it was just a cycle. I just kept borrowing from these guys to pay this guy back, and then I'd borrow from somebody else to pay these guys back. And what happened was, I think they caught wind of that I was borrowing money, and they had a vehicle that they believed it was a silver SUV that had robbed the bank. Well, I drove a silver SUV. They didn't know the brand or the make or model. So I think they put 2 and 2 together.
So you're in Chicago now. You're living at your parents' house. Now, is that a knock on the door situation?
No, they never came to my parents' house once.
No. So then how does it ultimately come back where it's
my attorney's dealing with them. My attorney's back in South Dakota. He's dealing with them a lot of the time. There gets to a point, and, I'll get into it a little bit, but, for personal reasons, protect somebody. They had approached somebody close to me and said, hey, we know he robbed a bank. You know what I mean? We know your job, law enforcement. We don't want anything bad to happen. We just want him to come in, confess, get it out the way. Well, that person approached me. I didn't necessarily disclose everything. I hadn't told anybody at this time. I didn't even tell my attorney. I told my attorney I didn't do it because I couldn't admit that I did it. And this is a paid attorney, that has privilege, confidentiality with me. And I didn't even tell him. That shows you that I was just in a complete state of denial.
You're pretty warped, yeah.
Yeah. So this person comes to me, close to me, somebody I look up to a lot, and they, ask me like, hey, did you rob the bank? And I think it took a couple of times. I can't really remember, but eventually I told that person that I did it. Somehow, and I don't know, and I really don't care about how it got back to the FBI. Well, they ended up subpoenaing that person to come testify at the grand jury, to ask them what our conversation was and what happened between me and that person. And then at that time I was like, I'm not going to put that person through that. At this point I'd started realizing this is my problem. You know what I mean? There's a lot of times in my life I've been kind of selfish, and I think that's this era or this arrogance that I've carried, like being a football player, like, being college Division I football player, like you work hard, and I've always been a shit talker, attitude, you know what I mean? So I'd always thought, not necessarily that I was better than people, but that's the football persona I carried. I was a shit talker through and through, you know what I mean? So I'd finally realized like, oh, I can't do that in life at this point. So then I told my attorney, I actually drove in person and told my attorney that I did rob the bank and that I wanted to confess. And he's like, no, they don't have you. Otherwise they would. He's like, that person could testify at the grand jury and they still won't have enough. And I was like, no, I got to confess.
Wow. So this person, obviously I assume they meant that much to you because you told them, you didn't tell your girlfriend, you didn't tell your parents.
And this was, this is somebody I've looked up to my whole life. Yeah. Obviously I've highly, highly disappointed with everything that I've done.
What was their reaction when you told them what you did?
At first it was just kind of shock and awe, because then we went down and told my parents. My parents, like, I'll remember that forever, for the rest of my life, their reaction.
What happened there?
Just heartbroken.
Yeah.
My mom cried. My dad actually left the house. My dad was just destroyed. Like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, why would you do that?
And I don't remember the next couple of days. We didn't really talk much, and then eventually they sat me down and said, no, we'll get through this. We love you. And that just shows the type of parents I have, just have my back 100%.
Yeah.
Even though I was raised, the way I was raised good, went to Catholic school my whole life. Dad was law enforcement, you know what I mean? So this was just a huge, I'm sure being in high school with me, if there was one person that you thought would do this, I wouldn't be on that list.
For sure.
And that's why I think, we're here today. But they ended up, having my back. And that, like I said, the person that I ended up having that conversation with, and that it came out. But, he had my back, you know what I mean? He was willing to go and testify and say what he had to say. But, he was supportive. And, that's a relationship we're still working on, it's like I said, disappointment is, but I just have to show, because I've had that arrogance, like I said, throughout my life and it wasn't necessarily that I thought I was better than people. It's just, you carry that from the field to life sometimes. Like on the field, you want to push yourself to be better than everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the way I did. I was a talker too. I beat you in a drill and I let you know I beat you.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I've been working on in life, is not having that as well. But so that ends up happening. I end up.
But why you didn't want to go at all, knowing that your attorney said, "Hey,
no,
you still don't think they got you?"
No, I cared.
So what flipped the switch then? Your parents' reaction and this person's reaction?
No, just the fact that my shit was going to have to bring that person involved in it. They were going to have to change their life. They were going to have to do things in their life. Talk to certain people at their job and do. I just couldn't have it. I was like, nope, couldn't do it.
But how much would that have changed, though, Dave, if you didn't? You know what I mean? If you did it, but either way, I assume that person still went through this stuff. No.
Yeah, but I just.
It just personally felt better to you.
Yeah, personally felt better. Like making someone you care about have to go drive 8 hours and go sit in front of a bunch of people they don't know and answer questions about whether I did something or did not do something based on the conversation. I couldn't do that. You know what I mean? I'd started actually, like I said, thinking about other people at that point. And so we set up a date to go confess to the FBI.
So you go, where was the FBI branch at?
in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Okay, so you go back. Is that your first time back in South Dakota since?
No, I had gone. No, yeah, that's the first time. I had gone a couple times to pick up my daughter, like meet my daughter's mom halfway, and once or twice, I think, to get my daughter.
Okay. What was the confession like?
So I walked in and just sat down with, there's 2 FBI guys, and it was pretty much like this. It was just a very cordial conversation. They asked me questions. I told them the truth about everything, didn't hide anything. I was worried that they were going to take me in custody that day. That was a big thing, but they told my attorney, no, we're not going to take him into custody. We're going to let him go. We'll indict him, and then he'll come turn himself in. They said this process is going to be pretty simple for him because I've never been in trouble. I've been, for the most part, besides a little bit there, I was not cooperative, but then I started cooperating with them, not like telling on anybody, but telling on myself,
And that's, what did you say, like February, March of 2017?
It was like February, March, somewhere in there.
So then you confess.
But then a week later, they indicted me.
Okay.
We set up a date for me to go turn myself in. So I went back to the FBI. The FBI walked me over to the courthouse, logged me in the courthouse, had my initial arraignment. They didn't set a bail. They set a PR bond, which is like a personal recognizance, so there's no money put up. And they just let me go back to Chicago.
Why wasn't there an initial, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Why didn't they take you right away? Like you said, why didn't they take you into custody? Why wasn't there?
I think it's just the circumstances and my situation. They didn't believe, it was a one-time thing. I don't think they believed there was any threat. I honestly don't know, to be honest.
And there was no bond for that reason too, or?
Yeah, just the situation that I had confessed. I basically essentially confessed before I got indicted. So I was cooperating.
So then, but they did let you leave South Dakota again to go back to Chicago.
And I was on pretrial release at home in Chicago. I had a probation officer and everything.
So that was the whole summer of
16.
Summer of 16.
Yep.
Now,
and I was working. I had jobs.
Now, at what point does everything come out?
I think it was like May or June. I don't know if you remember. I think it was like.
It was definitely in the summer because I actually even remember when I found out.
Yeah, and I actually know who initially, like I told you before, I actually know who found out originally.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually looking up a college teammate of mine because they thought they had seen the Bears had signed him, and they had seen, I think he went to South Dakota, and I think Dave went to South Dakota, and they Googled me, and that's when people saw the news reports of. And I had actually told, there was 3 people that I'm close with here in Chicago that I had told, friends of mine that I had told before I even went in and confessed. But they didn't tell anybody, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So then that's the news reports, and like I said, everyone was shocked.
Yeah.
It was just there's your mugshot. Then they had the pictures in the bank of you wearing the old man mask, and it was just like, holy fuck.
Yeah, it was out of nowhere.
It was out of nowhere, and then there was random sightings of you remember hearing, because all of a sudden you turn into the boogeyman.
Yeah.
And was there a sense of, did you feel that way?
Yeah, my anxiety clicked up 10,000%. After that, just going, if I ran in, I was at work one time and I ran into some guys that I used to play with, a couple years older than me, Laybeck.
Yeah.
Laybeck and Barrett.
Yeah.
And I was at work, and they actually came into work and were asking me about it. And my work didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they're like, you robbed a bank, and, Layback, crazy Layback's like, oh, that's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they can't, but then, that's what started happening is people, and, I will say this, I was worried that people would there obviously people have their own way of processing things, but I was surprised at how many people that I knew but I wasn't close with reached out, made sure everything was all right.
Mm-hmm.
Like dudes from St. Tars that I really didn't know that. It's just I knew from school, but they would reach out and hey, everything good? Or if I saw them out, be like, hey man, don't worry about it. Shit happens. You know what I mean? It was crazy to see actually the support. You know what I mean?
That you got. Because, I remember, man.
I felt, and during all this, I didn't feel bad for myself. I more felt bad for my family.
that they had to endure that.
Had to go through that. Like,
Yeah.
because this is not the way I was raised. This is not the way, anything in my life was supposed to go. I was a criminal justice major.
Yeah.
I'd actually applied to a prison. I had applied to become a police officer. I got through all the phases. I just didn't do it. You know what I mean? So it was a crazy turn, but I felt bad for them.
Yeah, because that was the thing, man. I remember being like, I just saw Geesey walking down Northwest Highway. It's like, whoa! It's like, you were the boogeyman.
And my phone was blowing
some
up.
people.
My phone, like, text me, like people emailing me or DMing me and Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
And I really, I tried to tell a couple people kind of what happened, but you obviously know it didn't really get out too much. But
No.
what happened, and that's why this podcast is important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's why I was like, man. I said that, I was like, you know what? I can imagine what that's like, the anxiety to go through that, to be like, hey, he's out, and that sense of, hey, the boogeyman is, whatever.
Yeah.
And sorry to keep calling you that,
No,
but it's true.
It's true.
And
I mean, where we grew up, where we went to high school, this doesn't happen.
no, not at all. It doesn't happen at all, and that's why it's like,
And
hey,
especially, me, not to be like cocky or anything. I was a Division I
yeah.
scholarship athlete.
Yeah,
and
I still remember you getting looked at by Purdue and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do remember, Ben. And that's why I'm like, man, like if this is something where it's tough, right? Because this is where it kind of goes round and round because, you do this. And this is why I was like, hey, if you do this, a lot of people will listen.
Yeah.
And there will be a lot less questions you'll have
Yeah.
to answer that you don't want to answer.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
But then again, it's, how do you juggle that with like knowing that like you fucking did fuck up some people's mental states, man?
Yeah. I mean, I did this program in prison called the Life Connections program. It was like an 18-month program. And one of the things was a victim impact like group. We listened to people, and there was this gentleman there that had walked in on a robbery at his house, and he got stabbed like 47 times. Was like, I mean, you could see the scars all over. And this guy just kept coming back and stabbing him. And he actually, he bought the guy's in prison. He bought the guy a TV. He stays in contact with the guy. But he gave me a lot of good information about like where they're coming from, you know what I mean? So I can understand. I'm never going to talk to the people again, but there's really nothing I can do to ever make them feel better. I can just, my goal now that I'm out is to, either get in the legal field and help people. And then I also plan on, trying to go talk at high school to kids and stuff like that, because this can happen. I'm an example that this can happen out of nowhere. So, there's nothing I can do to ease, I served my time. I'd served the sentence that was given to me. There's nothing else I can do to make those people feel any different. I don't expect them to feel any different. There's nothing I can do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's kind of that's a tough pill to swallow, to know, because they came at my sentencing and testified.
Yeah, and that's why, that's what, I guess that's the final portion here that we got to get to, is that so you confessed, so then you get to your sentencing.
Yeah, so I was on a pretrial release, and the federal system is kind of unique. They create this pre-sentence report, which is like a biography, background information of your life. That goes to the judge, and then people can write letters. I got 33 people that wrote letters. I had my old high school, or I had my old college head football coach. I had a academic advice. I had great letters written by people close to me, that I appreciate having my back even after everything came out. But they wrote letters, and then it goes to the judge, and then you go to sentencing at the judge. And I made a statement, my father made a statement, and then the 4 people that were in the bank made a statement.
What did you think you were going to get?
I knew my guideline range was 41 to 51 months.
Okay.
Because the federal system is very...
And feds is a bigger deal, right? Like if it was...
No, well, state is like a wild card when it comes to sentencing, because state, like the feds have a guideline range that the judge most likely has to stick to. The state can kind of go anywhere.
Okay.
But it was federal from the start. There was no...
So it was better that it was federal in a sense?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We won't know that, because all bank robberies are federal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The only way it wouldn't be is if it's not federally insured,
Yeah.
FDIC.
Mm-hmm.
But all banks, besides credit unions,
Yeah.
some credit unions aren't FDIC insured. But I knew my guideline range was 41 to 51 months. I thought I was going to get 41. I thought maybe I would even get a little lower. She would depart from the guideline range. But I think that testimony, and rightfully so, the testimony of those employees, I think that made her like, whoa, this had a big impact on some people.
And so what did you get?
48 months.
48 months. And what was that like for those people to write their impact statements about?
I was tearing up. I was crying the whole time.
Yeah.
I couldn't even look up. And it wasn't a show. It was genuine.
So these people were pretty damaged by what you did.
Yeah, and they laid it out. They said, they made me understand. It wasn't, at no point I was like, I've met some guys being in prison that are like, oh, screw them. They worked at a bank. They knew what they're getting into. I'm like, no, they didn't. That's.
Yeah. And I think, and in the reports and the articles that the judge actually, it sounded like the judge got mad at you.
Yeah. So
for calling them by name.
Well, yeah, because when I was giving my statement, I was trying to let them know, and I knew them because that was my bank. I was trying to let them know that essentially nothing that they did made me come there and do it. It was because it was my bank and I was familiar with it. And I tried letting them know that, and I was saying their names, and the judge didn't like that. And that's when I kind of was like, okay, the judge is not happy with me.
Yeah. And what did the judge say? She just said stop using their names?
Yeah, stop using their names. So then I had it written out, and so I skipped to the next part.
So your intentions were good by using their names?
Yeah, it wasn't. I was just trying to let them know that, like, genuinely, that every single one of them had been good to me, and that I was basically a piece of crap for doing what I did, and that nothing they did, brought this on.
Man, hearing
and that's a tough, and I can never explain it, really, just being in that situation where you have these people here that are talking about how bad, like the one guy talked about how the median age in the U.S. is 79 years old. And I still remember this. That's clear as day. He said the median age is 79 years old, and they, with how many years left they have to live, they have like 176 years left to live with what I did to them. You know what I mean? And that's if they live to that median age. I was like, wow.
It really struck you, huh?
Yeah. And, just like listening to them talk about,
Is that the worst you felt?
Yes, that's the worst I've ever felt. And my family was there too. So I knew they had, my family sitting on this side trying to support me, but then you got these other people's family. I'm like, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine. I was crying. I mean, there's no shame in my game. I was tearing up. I was legitimately crying, bawling up.
Yeah, because you hear, I'm the bad guy. That's always such a common phrase. In that courtroom, you were the bad guy.
Yeah, rightfully so, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I have the transcript from the sentencing all written out. Like the clerk provides you with it.
Mm-hmm. You still think about these people?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. When I was in prison, I worked on myself. I did programs. Every time I didn't want to go to the program, I thought of these people.
Mm-hmm.
I became a certified paralegal and helped, over 30 guys with their cases.
And then were you taken into custody right after that?
Yeah,
sentencing?
So we were hoping to get self-surrender, which means you're released in hey, December 10th, you got to turn yourself in to here. So we were hoping, and the prosecutor didn't even argue with self-surrender, but the judge, nope.
Nope, she said, we want him now.
Yep.
What's that like when they slap the cuffs on you?
It wasn't, the worst part was I wanted to hug my mom and I couldn't because my mom was just broken up and I couldn't hug her because I was in custody of the marshals and the marshal said no.
But that's something we always see from our angle. You see the cuffs go on, you see,
you don't think until they brought me back to the holding cell.
Yeah, and even that you turn around, you always see the person who's in custody that look at their family.
Yeah.
And you see them walk through that door, and that door shuts.
Yeah.
We don't see what happens when that door shuts.
Yeah, they brought me into this room, stripped me naked, took pictures, my tattoos, everything, any scars I had, all that stuff, and then gave me a jumpsuit and put me in a cage.
And then that was, how long were you there until they moved you to
I was
federal
there till
prison?
so I was there for like five hours. Then they actually moved me to a state prison in Sioux Falls, Jameson State Penitentiary. So I get in there and remember, a lot of these guys that go into the system, they might have somebody that's gone through the system, or, you know what I mean? They have a way to relate. I have no way to relate. So I walk in and I get put in a cell at the state prison. And the state prison was way different because it was a supermax. So you're locked down 23 hours a day. And there's guys in there for murder and stuff like that. So that was a different situation. But I was there for like 2 weeks. And then I went to the federal transfer center in Oklahoma City. And that's when I found out I was going to Milan, which is a low security prison.
And what was your emotion, though, when they said the sentencing, they put the cuffs on you, they said, no, you're going now?
It hadn't hit.
No.
It didn't hit till later that night when I was sleeping on a bed with no pillow on a metal slab.
It was pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal that first night. And you can't show any emotion, you know what I mean, because you're in prison.
Yeah. How terrified were you?
I was never terrified, to be honest with you, because I thought I was like, I'm a pretty smart human being. I believe, like, there's been situations in the streets, like getting in fights and stuff like that. And I felt like I'm a pretty smart person in those situations, so I felt like I'd be okay. And so there's actually a gentleman that's serving like 3 life sentences at that first prison I was at. He's a state prisoner, but he kind of walked me through things to do, things not to do, things to stay away from, things. It made me work out with him every day, burpees, squats. But he kind of walked me through. And then when I got to the transfer center, I met some of these guys going to the penitentiary, where penitentiary is no joke in the Fed system. Like, that's where, that's where bad things happen. But there's guys dudes. And there's guys in there that recognize that I'm not a normal everyday inmate. So they kind of like walked me through, told me, so I really wasn't ever scared.
And then was it a relief when you went to Michigan?
Yeah, because when I found out at like my intake that I was going to Milan, I was asking guys, I was like, I'm going to Milan. They're like, that's Smiling Milan. Everything's good there. Mm-hmm. You'd be fine. There's nothing. It's a low security. Everything's good. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, we're over an hour now, and I feel like there's so much more we could do, but I know you got to get back.
We get some more time. We can talk a little bit.
No, yeah. Maybe, I would talk about prison sometime, but was it, so you served, what was the exact date you got in?
November 6th.
November 6th.
Yep.
And then you got out?
The 4th, I believe.
November 4th, 2020.
Yep. And I'm technically under custody until April. So in April, that's when I begin my supervised release, which is 4 years, but you can get that kind of shortened if you do the right things.
Do you feel rehabilitated? Do you think like this is...
Like the program, so there's a couple ways that people go into prison. There's people that go in and continue down the same path. They use drugs. They manipulate their family on the outside. They just don't care about bettering themselves. I don't want to say enjoyed myself, but I got by my time at Milan. I played sports. They got full basketball, football, softball. I did my sports, but I worked my ass off to do programs too. I did that 18-month Life Connection program, which is like a faith-based reentry program, and there's so many aspects of that program. And there's no benefit of taking it other than bettering yourself. You don't get time off. Like, there's a drug program that you can get a year off, but I wasn't eligible to get the year off because of my crime was considered violent. But the LCP, the Life Connections, had no benefit. But I took it, and I got so much out of it. Then there's 2 different drug programs I did. There's a fatherhood program I did. I did everything. I worked with the University of Michigan Creative Arts Prison Project. That is amazing. It's called PCAP. Look that up, Prison Creative Arts Project through the University of Michigan. Absolutely amazing program where they come in and do journaling stuff with you. And these are college kids that come into a prison aren't scared at all to work with you. You know what I mean? And then the big thing was I became a certified paralegal. I earned my certificate. I see no issues in my life going forward. I think Like I said, I'm clean, drug clean, 4 years, 3 weeks today. I don't even have an inkling to use anything ever again.
No.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, and prison, just being in prison doesn't rehabilitate you. Just being locked behind, that's one thing I want to make clear, is that just because you go and serve your sentence, that doesn't mean you're rehabilitated. Because it's a whole different life. It's a whole different world in there, but it's still a world. It's like a city. You know what I mean? There's still way things happen. You have to put in work. Just because you're behind prison walls doesn't mean you're going to rehabilitate yourself. And I believe I've taken every step possible, you know what I mean? So to rehabilitate myself.
Yeah, man. And and you did have an early release, right? You were supposed to be April.
Well, no. So what in the federal system, what happens is you serve, if you earn your good conduct time, you end up serving 85% of your sentence. So my 85% days in April is when I'll have served 85% of my sentence. Well, they always give you halfway house time to be able to like reintegrate. So you can go to the halfway house or home confinement, and that's what I'm on now, is the home confinement. So
okay, so you went to halfway house in November. And then now you're on home confinement, so you got the ankle monitor and everything.
Yeah.
And then April, it's off.
Yeah, April it's off. I start my supervised relief. I'll have a PO. There's certain steps I got to take with him. Certain things I got to do with him to continue my reentry.
Wow.
But yeah,
man.
I mean,
how'd it feel to get out?
It just didn't feel real. You know what I mean? Because it was crazy. Because I had this box of stuff, legal work, and some stuff, books I wanted to bring home, and the guy walks me up to the front and says, your ride coming? I said, yeah, it's him coming right there. He said, all right, have a good day. And I'm like, he walks away, and I'm standing there at the front door of the prison. I'm like, whoa. It just was like a surreal feeling, because you see, especially being at a low security, you see a lot of guys leave you know what I mean? So I've there's guys that I consider my friend that are in there, make people that were important, made me realize things while I was in there, you know what I mean? And you see them leave every day, and you just don't think about it. And then all of a sudden, and it was kind of a weird last 4 months because of the Corona stuff, the COVID, because we were on lockdown, and then I had to quarantine for 30 days in a cell before I left, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
a long time.
It wasn't and then once I got in the car with my dad, he had Dunkin' Donuts waiting for me.
Yeah, there you go.
And I was like, all right, we're there.
That had to be a nice, you open your car, your dad's car door, it's you see him after doubles or something. Getting out of prison's got to be a whole nother level.
Yeah, it was just like a complete surreal feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done.
What do you view as like your biggest challenge like now?
I really don't think there's anything.
No.
I got some stuff with my daughter I got to work on. You know what I mean? Being able to get custody and see her. I think it's very easy for people in my situation to hide behind the fact, oh, I'm a felon, nobody's going to hire me. That's changed a long time ago. There's people that are felons. I got family members and, distant family members that have had felonies and have successful lives. There was an inspiration. There's a guy named Sean Hopwood that robbed a bank, and he did 12 years for the bank robbery. While he was in there, he started doing legal work for inmates, and he teaches law at Georgetown now.
Oh, wow.
So there's nothing, I don't see that ever holding me back.
And that's the goal, to be a paralegal, or what's the...
I'm looking.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge getting a law firm to say, hey, let me take a chance on this kid. But I think the work that I've done for other inmates will speak for them. I've gotten guys compassionate release, which is, there's some lawyers that might have 20 clients and not get a guy out on compassionate release. I got like 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there's, I think I just got to get in the door and show my work off, and I think people will realize, my ability. And I think I offer this unique perspective because a lot of these higher end law firms in Chicago here, let's say, they get a guy that's in on fraud. He has no idea what to expect when he goes to a prison. Just like I had no idea, but I've been through that. So I believe I can offer these guys a unique perspective, like, hey, don't do this, do this, don't do this, do this.
Yeah.
So I think I can turn that into a positive, but That might be a little challenging. If not that, I'll find something,
Yeah, because I think that's the big thing right here, Dave. It's like, you're going to get half the people that are like, hey, he paid his debt to society.
Yeah.
He deserves a second chance. And half people are like, oh, burn him. He's a scumbag.
Yeah, but I used to care what other people thought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I always used to be concerned about that, and I don't care. Yeah. I did my time. I've taken every step I possibly can take to get better. I'm going to do everything I can in my community and those around me. I'm going to go, like I said, I'm going to go speak to kids. That's one thing that I'm going to make. I'm going to make an impact there. I hope, at least I could just do this, tell my story, and hopefully, make other people. But I honestly don't care if people want to have that stance. There's nothing I can do. What do you want me to do? They sentenced me to time. I've done that time. And I didn't just do that time doing nothing. I got a whole thing of certificates that I've earned, that I've done to better myself. I taught classes in there. I taught other inmates. So there's nothing.
Yeah, you seem like you're ready to go.
Yeah, I am 1,000% ready to go. And I feel like it's almost motivation because, it's easy to write off people that have a felony. Oh, he has a felony. He's not going to get a job. He's not going to do anything. So it's like, no, that's not going to – I want people 10 years from now to be like, he did that, but he had a – I want to be that – I want to be a Sean Hopwood for somebody.
Yeah, a success story that people could share.
But I'm at a place now that if it doesn't happen as easy as that way as I want it, I can handle it. I wasn't that way before.
It's very important, man.
Yeah, I was. That's you know what I mean?
No, Dave,
I lived a life. I lived like a life. Being at Pat's, I was a good athlete, so I kind of got taken care of here or there. Not really, but and then once I got to college, they told you where to go to class.
Yeah.
Everything was structured in my life up until I was 22, and so I really didn't know how to deal with things. That's a big thing. Is when I want to stress the college athletes is prepare yourself for when it ends, because it's going to end. Not everyone goes to the pros. Not everyone.
Yeah. That's not even only an athlete thing either, Dave. That's something. You're a college kid. You're thinking, well, I'm 21, I'm 22. I'm just going to go back to my house and sit there and have a couple beers.
But even being an athlete, because everything's so structured.
Yes, I definitely get the difference for sure. But even I could tell you personally, you get out and you're like, all right, now what?
Yeah. And I had no way, because nothing had ever gone bad in my life. Nothing was wrong. So now I believe I have the tools if something does go bad that I can
be able to write it.
Yeah.
And not get in. And I think, do you know that suffocation point? That's the word you like to use. Do you know that point so you don't get there again?
Yeah. And I think the big thing is I don't feel sorry for myself anymore. A lot of that was self-loathing, she broke up with me. Oh, I got a drug problem. I felt bad for myself, and I played the victim, and I'm not the victim. I was the animal in this situation. You know what I mean? And I know that now, and that's all I can do is use that to go forward.
Yeah.
I want people that I enjoy in my life, but I'm at the point where I'm not going to go out of my way to please people. Because I've done everything. I've taken every single step I can. I've done everything I can. There's nothing else I can do. So now there's certain relationships where I have to build up trust again. I understand that. But, let's roll. That's what I'm, you know what I mean?
Definitely. And then was there anything, kind of here, the end here, before we wrap up, was there anything we didn't get to that you kind of, was particularly interesting throughout the whole process or...
it's just one thing I don't know, bring awareness to, but, I was always in the situation growing up, being in a law enforcement family, is criminals can't be rehabilitated. I took that stance. I grew up that way. I was like, no, throw them in prison. Until you're in prison, you do not realize what it does to you. And I was in a nicer prison, and I was only there for 3 years. There's guys in there because of sentencing errors that they've now fixed, but they haven't made it retroactive. There's guys in there, like I told you, serving 40 years on a sentence today that they would get 17 for. The federal system, and I don't want to get all political, but the federal system, the sentencing, and they started making changes to it now, is completely broken. Completely broken. I could walk out today and tell somebody that, hey, Eddie sold me drugs, and you could get 10 years conspiracy just off of my word. No proof. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing, is that just, at least in the federal system, don't believe just the surface of it. There's more to it. Is there bad people in prison? Yes, 100%. I was one of those people, I believe. I was a bad person. I did what I did. But there's guys in there that did what they did, but they don't deserve 40 years. They don't deserve 25 years. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's one thing I just want to change, hopefully change that perspective a little bit, because I used to be on that side saying, oh, criminals are scumbags. And I still believe that, because I was locked up with some of them. But the thing is that there is issues with the federal system. And I'm not just saying this because I went through it and I feel bad for these guys. Legitly having become a paralegal and studying law and seeing how stuff was supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Like they corrected in 2018, they corrected one of these sentencing errors, but they didn't make it retroactive. So they're saying, well, if you're sentenced before this date, tough shit. But if you're sentenced after this date, you can get it. You know what I mean? So there's guys that still have 15 years left on their sentence that could get out if they corrected it.
Yeah.
And you made an error because you corrected it. It's crazy. And it's, there's just, it's
a lot different
I just don't want everyone to lump it. Not all criminals are the same. And a lot of them do deserve time, but some of the time is just outrageous. The mandatory minimums in prison and the federal system is outrageous. Like I said, you can get that one enhancement was 25 years, and now you can only do 5 for it. That's a 20-year difference. Can you imagine that? 20 years.
That's a big difference.
How old are you?
30.
So imagine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was some guys in prison that I was with one guy was down since 1993.
Wow.
There's another guy that was down
time.
at 97. He just got out. He was 17 years old when he went in. First time offender, but because of these glitches in the sentencing enhancement, he got an additional 25 years.
It's a long time, man.
Yeah, that's kind of, one thing I would just want people to be aware of is that at least with the federal system, it's not cut and dry. It's not, people don't deserve some of the things they're getting. There's plenty of guys that do deserve, there's guys with murders and stuff like that. I get it. You deserve your time, and they know they deserve it too, but there's some guys that do not deserve the time that they get.
Definitely.
And that's one thing I'm doing now is I'm trying to help as many people as I can with the legal work for free. I never charged in prison. I helped as many guys as I could. I was overwhelmed to the max helping guys try to fight their cases.
I hear you, man.
So,
well, hey, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, to clear the airwaves.
Yeah,
and
man.
That, if anyone listens to this that I used to know and they want to reach out, more than welcome to. I posted on my Facebook not too long ago, said, listen, if you're ever going through anything that you need to talk to, I'm here. You know what I mean? That's, because I went through the worst of the worst in life and I got through it. So I'm just want other people to know that, I talk to and stuff that I know. And if they ever need to talk to somebody or want to know what happened any more than what we've discussed, I'm open to talk about it because there's nothing, you can't hide from it.
No, you can't.
That's why we did
All
this.
the articles are out there, man. That's why I said, hey, might just be easier to get this out there because I know a lot of people listen to this. So, at least who people who know you. So, I wish you the best of luck.
Yep, thank you.
Also, hey, you still got that T-Mac jersey I gave for that jersey party at
I do.
Junior?
I believe I
need that thing back.
I believe.
Fuck.
Hey, that is crazy that you remembered that.
That's a fucking classic jersey.
Yep. The blue.
Yeah, I still got that thing. Bring it over.
I think that's up with my packed away with my Tebow jerseys, my Josh Hamilton. I used to have quite the jersey collection, but I do remember taking that.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dave.
Yep, thank you.
That's it for today, everyone. Once again, wish you the best of luck. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.